Okay, we are live here today, Black Friday, November 28th, 2025. What a year it has been for Mandarin Blueprint. So we are live now, and I just want to make sure that everyone in the chat can hear me okay. So I'm just going to say hello there. Hello in the chat. Let me know if you guys saw that, and I'd like to confirm that everybody can see and uh, see everything. Can you see my screen? Just a little confirmation from anyone who is currently watching. If you are able to see that, that would be very useful, just so I can make sure that we are all good. All right. Thank you, Laura, who lets me know that we are good to go, loud and clear. So my name is Phil Crimmins, and I'm coming to you from beautiful Austin, Texas, here on this Black Friday. For those American friends here, I hope that you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. And today we're going to talk quite a lot about some really, really fun stuff that has to do with the Mandarin Blueprint system, because we learned a ton this year. Lots of things that we're going to share with you today. And of course, it is Black Friday, so look out for something that's extremely special at the end of this. It's going to be very exciting. All right. So I'm going to give it another minute just because we want to make sure that everybody has a chance to come on in and see the stream today. And for those of you who are here, feel free to drop into the chat how you heard about Mandarin Blueprint, whether or not you're already a member of Mandarin Blueprint Lite. And if you aren't, just go to mandarinblueprint.com and join our Lite community. It's free. But let me know. I'd be curious to hear where you guys are from, how you heard about Mandarin Blueprint, and whether or not you've tried our course yet. Very interested always to see who here has heard of us before. So while I wait for you guys to write that in the chat, let's go ahead and get started with today's presentation, where we're going to talk about these two guys who came up with a crazy idea. So that's my business partner, Neale, the much more handsome fella on the left. And then there's me back when I even had some semblance of hair, although it was already pretty much gone. And we are the co-founders and co-CEOs here at Mandarin Blueprint. Now, a long time ago, we started to come up with better ways to teach people Mandarin. We launched Mandarin Blueprint in 2019 to fix the broken Chinese education system once and for all, because it was problematic. And so from there, we have helped over 30,000 people learn Chinese with our courses and counting. And it has been quite the journey. We're actually almost to our 10-year anniversary as a company, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So we've been doing this a long time. And until now, we've been quite happy just, helping people make progress. And they've been happy too. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews and thousands of happy customers across our various platforms: Google reviews, Trustpilot, Facebook. And we're, of course, delighted about this. But this year was genuinely special. And you see, we did something no one else has dared to do in the language learning space, which is that we guaranteed Mandarin fluency. And this was, not progress, not improvement. We said, we'll work with you until you reach B2 or C1 fluency. Now, for those of you who are unaware, B2 fluency is like upper intermediate or conversational fluency. And this is what most pro language learners consider actually fluent. It's the lowest level that is, maybe not as fluent as you could be, but it's fluent enough to be able to have a conversation and not get stuck. And then C1 fluency is advanced or professional fluency. So we really put everything on the line here, right? We knew that if this failed, it wouldn't just cost a bunch of money. It would also cost our reputation, everything we built. And so the pressure forced us to refine every single step until fluency became predictable. And this is a huge thing that we had to do here. So to make that promise real, we created a new 10 to 20K coaching program for our most committed learners, and we called it Mandarin Blueprint Elite. And a lot of what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is all the stuff we learned from it. So in March 2025, We promised a small group of learners we would work with them until they passed a third-party oral proficiency test at the B2 level. And since launching Elite, we've learned more about what actually works in these few months than the previous 10 years. So since March, we've been constantly refining the regimen, building tools, fixing bottlenecks. And in July, we opened up more spots and continued to improve everything based on feedback. Now, today, there are over 175 members inside Elite. And so, full disclosure, there are very few people who started in March, and nobody has yet passed the oral proficiency test. However, this makes sense because B2 Fluency is a 1,000-hour project with this system, 2,000 to 3,000 hours with traditional methods. And almost all of the Elite members are learning part-time, 30 to 120 minutes a day, so only about 100 to 200 hours in. That said, though, many members have already had impressive speaking breakthroughs in just a few short months. And so here are a few examples of the progress we've seen so far.
哇，你的词汇量很高哦。
不是，就是因为我用 Mandarin Blueprint，所以我最近学的很多。
啊，这样。你平时最大的爱好是什么呀？
我有很多爱好，我主要的爱好是健身、学中文和读圣经。我是基督徒。
你平时有喜欢听的音乐吗？
我其实很喜欢听音乐，可是我比较喜欢没有歌词的放松音乐，因为如果有歌词的话，我会让我 like distracted。所以如果我在工作，我喜欢听那样的音乐。
早餐吃什么？
我一般不吃早餐，因为早上不太饿。可是我喜欢早上喝杯茶。
那你午饭一般吃什么呢？
我一般吃三明治、面条或者意面，我自己带午饭。我也还会吃点水果，像苹果、芒果、葡萄。
你刚刚说你有一个女朋友，你女朋友是中国人吗？
是的，她是中国的，她住在上海。
她是一个怎样的人？
她是一个很特别的人，她很积极、快乐、外向。
你大学学的什么？
我大学学的很多事情，我学的工厂管理，还有医院和医疗管理、信息系统、安全系统、经济学，我学的很多。
那您方便说一下您当时为什么去台湾吗？
我爸爸是美国军人，
哦，
他跟台湾的军人一起工作。
哦，悉尼的天气怎么样？
这里天气很好，这里不太冷也不太热，我们也没什么大的自然灾害。
很好。
Now, the thing to understand here is that these folks aren't language prodigies, right? They are just busy professionals, parents, retirees, total beginners, and they're just following a system that makes fluency predictable. And this is such an important thing to recognize because you can definitely do this. This is not a thing where it's like, oh, you have to have some kind of special skill in language. Are you able to understand me right now? Well, that means you could acquire at least one language, right? And so today, over the next few minutes, I'm going to take you behind the scenes and share our entire system with you. And you'll do this so you can get to fluency much faster without the 10K price tag. And so what I'm going to deliver to you today, you'll get access to our full system, Mandarin Blueprint Pro, with our biggest discount ever and free bonuses currently only available to our Mandarin Blueprint Elite coaching clients. You'll get access to our full system. And what we're going to cover today is why 95% of Chinese learners don't make it to fluency, the system that guarantees Mandarin fluency and fast, how to apply what you learn and start crushing Chinese today. And let's get into the first one here, why 95% of Chinese learners don't make it to fluency. Because, hey, before we talk about what to do right, we've got to talk about what most people do wrong. And so if you're learning for the first time, it's really important to avoid some of these pitfalls. Okay, so if you understand why people fail, you'll never waste time repeating their mistakes. And let me tell you, I know a couple of guys who you could learn a lot from because Luke and I have made every mistake in the book. Now, this was us, back in the early days. I was just starting to drum around China, but didn't really speak very well. Luke doing his self-study thing. We were frustrated. We were overwhelmed. We were completely lost. And, it created this situation where we didn't feel like we knew exactly where to go, but we wouldn't be stopped. And so 我们俩现在的中文水平都在接近 C1 左右，但走到这一步真的不容易。All right. Now, in the beginning, we tried classes, apps, textbooks, tutors. I even got a Chinese degree, which was unfortunately, I felt like I got to fluency in spite of that. We both lived and worked in China. We spent 2,500 plus hours combined. I mean, I think probably that much each. And we still couldn't speak or understand that well. Yeah, it's more like 2,500 hours combined each once we got to where we wanted to go. But yeah, before we reached our conclusions of how to improve things, yeah, it's probably about that. And we still weren't there. We still had these difficulties due to no structure or direction, things that were problematic because of a constant resource hopping, boring, slow classes. Ugh, they were so frustrating. A ton of time and money in particular for me, a lot of time wasted. And so you guys may find that some of this sounds familiar. You can let me know in the chat. But when you're resource hopping all the time, or you're trying classes, or you're doing all these constant boring things, it can create a lot of frustration and overwhelm. And so eventually we stopped guessing so much and we started researching how polyglots actually learned. And that's when everything changed. We discovered that, hey, memory techniques are super helpful. Flashcards, when done properly, can make such a huge difference. Comprehensible input, aka understandable messages that go into your eyes and ears, these are all hugely important. Immersion, speaking strategies, all of this stuff was what got us to then turn things around. And then both of us went from failing and almost quitting to B2 level fluency and passing the highest level Chinese exam in under a year, 4 times faster than the average full-time learner. And again, not because we're geniuses. It really just came to these breakthroughs that we had because we realized 2 things. One, the people who get fluent aren't necessarily smarter. They just have a better approach. In fact, being smarter sometimes can be a hindrance because you overthink the strategy. Every method we tried was broken in at least one of 3 ways. And if you can get these 3 correct, you'll be in a much better position. So we now call these the 3 pillars of fluency. They are structure, methodology, and consistency. Now, if you get these right, fluency can become predictable. And so miss any of them, though, you're in trouble. So what we're going to cover today, well, we covered why 95% of Chinese learners don't make it to fluency. Let's talk about the system that guarantees Mandarin fluency and fast. So the first thing we would have to talk about is the structure of your learning. Now, it's learning the right things at the right time. This is all great strategy when it comes to skill acquisition. You don't want to waste time or lose motivation. So how are we going to do this? Well, the number one reason most people quit Chinese, well, it's not a lack of discipline. It's not being bad at languages. It's just decision fatigue, right? It's just that feeling that I have to spend months or years jumping between apps, tutors, textbooks, YouTube, right? And learning random characters, maybe some words, phrases, and grammar rules in no particular order most of the time. And so what you'll do is you'll go to YouTube or ChatGPT and you'll ask it questions. You'll go to Google and you'll find answers. You might ask, how many characters or words per day should I learn? How much speaking versus reading? How to improve speaking and listening? When and how should I review my flashcards? And so how much immersion is the right amount? How do I find compelling immersion, comprehensible immersion? What about AI and using that? And so it's not that you can't find the answers. You can find the answers. There's infinite answers. But the problem is finding answers you trust. If there's one thing that can save you more time than anything, it's trust, and then trust that is not, betrayed. So, but the thing is, you're not going to do nothing. So when you don't know which thing you can trust, you're still going to make a decision. You're going to decide on something. You're going to spend weeks, even months, using some technique or app or tool or tutor you aren't 100% sure about. And there's always that niggling voice. It's always questioning, is this really the best way? And so just how much time am I wasting? Another question that comes up all the time. And so there's this constant doubt and second guessing, and it's exhausting. If you feel like everything you're trying to do is not necessarily the right way, you're just going to find it super draining. And that's why most learners give up. It's not because they're lazy, and it's because they're overwhelmed, right? There's so much choice and a lack of direction. There's nobody who's there who can confirm their decisions, right? And so that's exactly what great structure will fix for you. When you trust your roadmap, decision fatigue disappears. Now, unfortunately, conventional methods for learning Chinese have bad structure. I've experienced all of it, right? You either learn way too top down. For like top down basically just means learning phrases without learning the words, or learning words without learning the characters. You see a lot of this stuff with the HSK books, Duolingo, Rosetta Stone, Pimsleur, Memrise. All these things have their benefit in isolation, although maybe not the HSK books. Stay away from those. But you know, they might have their benefit in some like targeted way, but the structure in which you learn things is so out of order and confusing. And so it's like building a house on a foundation of sand. You're recognizing that, yeah, it should be a house. I'm trying to get a Chinese fluency house here in the end, but the foundations are so crappy that it keeps falling over. All right. But then maybe you learn way too bottom up. So this is something where you collect characters, you like their Pokemon cards, and right. And it's like you're viewing all of them without the correct context. And when you learn characters this way, I did a lot of this, then it's like you're building a brickyard. Sure, the bricks are a much more solid foundation for a house, but you're never taking them over to the house and building it, right? Because at least with top-down learning, you're staying focused on the goal. So what we needed to do to figure out how to get this clear for everyone was we spent 4 years creating the most efficient learning order we could design. We taught live seminars while we gradually created our own curriculum, improving on what worked, removing what didn't, and we ended up with a new order of Chinese learning. And by the way, that was so fun when we were teaching that in Chengdu. And then we even spent a year teaching it live online. And this is what we were able to come up with. We ended up creating a far more intuitive structure for learning Chinese, and we called it the optimal character learning order. Okay, ACLO. And so with ACLO, you learn characters and words in order of most common to least, and only when you're ready. You learn common characters only after learning their components. Right, so here are some components. Here's a character you could learn from that. You only learn common words after learning their characters. So here are 3 characters you might learn. You learn a new character, and there are 3 words you can use with that new character. And most importantly, you see and hear new words in comprehensible sentences immediately after learning a new character. So it's like you learn a new character that leads to a new word. You'd known these words previously. You learn this new word, and now you can see it in a sentence. So with ACLO, you go from 0 to understanding fast by learning holistically, balancing bottom up with top down. So you build a solid house, one section at a time. It's not a foundation that falls apart. So using ACLO as the foundation, we developed an entire 9,000 lesson curriculum we now call the Blueprint. And the Blueprint gives you 3,050 characters, 11,800 words, plus comprehensible example sentences for every usage, all organized by frequency. It's all you need to achieve any level of fluency you want, certainly from the acquisition side. So let's take a minute or two to see what it looks like in action. Here's level 35. So at this point, you've learned probably about 500 characters, and now we're going to learn the character Fang. You'll use the Henzi movie method to remember that it means square, that it's pronounced Fang, and at this point, you'll be able to do this in about 15 to 20 seconds. It'll be no problem. But in the next lesson, what we do is we say, okay, there are actually 3 words you can unlock that are A, high frequency, and B, only made up of characters you've already learned, and Fang, the character you just learned. Di Fang, Fang Bian, and Fang Fa. These are all high frequency, and so you're going to need to learn them right away. You'll use them all the time. So let's just look at Di Fang for a second. Later in the level, you'll get to Di Fang in context. So originally we went from character to word. Now we're going from word to sentence. And if we go down here to the sentences, these 2 sentences are made up of characters and words you previously learned in ACLO. Therefore, you'll understand them with pretty significant ease. That means you're getting comprehensible input while you're building comprehension. It becomes like a dance between build and get. And so this sentence in particular with the asterisk, that tells us that it comes from a longer form paragraph. So we went from character to word, word to sentence. Now we go from sentence to paragraph. This is the first paragraph of Sleeping Beauty in Chinese, 睡美人. And you'll see here in this very easy to digest paragraph, there's that sentence. And again, this paragraph is made up of characters and words you've already learned. If there is a character or word that you haven't learned yet, we put it here and we give you a pronunciation and definition. We call those top-down words. But you'll notice here this says paragraph 1. We don't stop there. One level later, you unlock the full story. So here's that sentence again. And here's that word again, and here's that character again. And now you're going to be able to read this full story at 90% comprehension here in level 35. But you really shouldn't stop at 90% comprehension. So up at level 54, when you've learned more characters and you learn more words, we unlock it again, and now you're at 98% comprehension. So you see, with the blueprint, you'll be able to understand Chinese sentences without pinyin in 10 to 20 hours from zero. And some of you who are in Mandarin Blueprint Lite may have already experienced this. And then after 100 to 150 hours, you'll be understanding entire articles and stories without the translation. So it makes such a huge difference that you can get to getting comprehensible reading that much faster. Compare this to like Spanish. If you're learning Spanish, at least you can read the language very soon after you start learning. With Chinese, it's not so easy until now. And while it's still not as easy as Spanish, we've made it significantly easier. Now, I'm going to get to how we did that, but it's important to understand that people are learning to read Chinese at a crazy pace using our course. People are constantly sharing in our Mandarin Blueprint Pro community about their successes, and it's just made such a big difference in their lives knowing that what they have been able to experience was actually realistic. I loved when Jessica shared about being able to watch Firefly in Chinese. So that's the structure taken care of, but let's move on to the second pillar of fluency, which is, of course, the methodology. And this is, essentially, if structure is when to learn what and when to learn things, the methodology is how. And you can have a bad methodology with a good structure. So we want to learn and remember the things we're going over efficiently and effectively. So how are we going to do that? Well, we need effective methodology over 3 stages of language learning. The first is building comprehension by learning lots of characters and words. And for Chinese, this is a bigger step than other languages because I just talked about before. Imagine you're learning Spanish. Well, you're going to be able to read the language quite quickly. Not so easy with Chinese. So this is a bigger step than some other languages. Now, with any language, you're going to need to get comprehensible input through lots of reading and listening, which is just another way of saying you have to understand the messages going into your eyes and ears. And then finally, you need to activate the vocabulary through lots of speaking practice. And it's more than you think. However much speaking practice you think it is, it's more. So this build, get, activate framework is the methodology, is the framework we use to think about our own methodology here. Okay, so for each stage, we use 2 proven techniques. For building comprehension, memory palaces, and mnemonic association. And let's get into exactly how we do that, and then I'll talk about what we do for get and activate. Okay, so mnemonic association and memory palaces. Well, we use the henzi movie method. Henzi is the Chinese word for a Chinese character. Okay, so take a moment, those of you who are here, and pick one of the women from this list. Madonna, Meryl Streep, somebody who has an M name like this. I'll go with Michelle Obama. All right. So imagine one of these, whoever you want. I'm going to imagine Michelle Obama. Okay. But I want you to imagine now that Michelle Obama is standing in the kitchen of the place you currently live. Okay. If it's easier to do this while closing your eyes, go for it. But just to the right of Michelle Obama appears a moon. It's very realistic sphere-like moon, and it's dusty, and you can almost tell, wow, that this is like a small model of the moon, and it's just floating there. And then what Michelle Obama does is she punches the moon. She punches it, and it opens up, And outside of the moon comes a super bright sun, and you can feel the heat radiating off of it. And it's so bright that Michelle Obama puts on her sunglasses. Now, believe it or not, we actually just learned a Chinese character, Ming. Okay, so how do we do this? Well, the pronunciation of the character Ming, and the meaning of the character bright. Well, the first bit was a set. We had you in the kitchen of your current place, and the set itself represents the NG in Ming. And then why was it the kitchen? Well, because any scene that takes place in a kitchen is second tone. So that's the representation of the second tone. And Michelle Obama, well, she's the MI. So just by having Michelle Obama in the kitchen of your current home, that represents Ming. And then that's not all. What else was there? There was the sun and the moon. And those are the actual representations of those Chinese character components. The left side component is the Chinese representation of a sun. The right side is the Chinese representation of the moon. So those are the objects. And then, of course, the meaning, why it's so bright in the room, she puts on sunglasses. Well, that's how the scene ended, meaning bright. So here's the thing. This isn't our novel idea. This is something that people have been doing for literally millennia. The ancient Greeks came up with this stuff. And these days, this is the exact same approach memory athletes use to perform insane feats of memory. These are things that, like memorizing huge decks of cards. We simply applied it to the technique of character learning. And this technique, this memory palace technique, when these memory champions are applying it, why does it work so well? Well, it works because they're associating things with people, objects, places, and actions. And by doing this and applying them to characters, then we have all of these people posting in the community at all times saying, I just hit character 900, 1400. Dennis late last year, did 1,500 characters in 33 days, the maniac. But he did it. And the way he did it was just by practicing this technique. So there's a sort of surprising benefit of the Henze movie method. It massively levels up your tones. So many people have trouble with tones. And the reason they have trouble with tones is because they think it's because they just can't produce the tones. It's not that. You can produce the tones. The issue is that they feel as though they can't remember what tone is associated with which character. But like we had Michelle Obama in the kitchen, you're always going to know the main tone of the character because of where the person was, what room were they in. And so people have said their tones got way better after doing the Henze movie method. So that's memory palaces. But what about mnemonic association? Well, this just has to do with learning words. We call them living links. And the reason you do this is because eventually you can learn a new word just through context, just like you do in your native language. But what do you do when you don't know enough to have context? You have to use your own past experiences. So what you do with mnemonic visualization is you do two simple, easy steps. Make a connection between the Chinese and the English meaning and visualize that connection in a funny, silly, or absurd way, right? So take, for example, the word 说明. So we have 明, that character we just learned, and 说 means to speak. So to speak until something is bright or clear. Well, first of all, there's the structure of the word. This is what's called a verb result word. So 说 means to speak. So that's the verb. And 明 means bright or clear, because that's what happens when you make things bright. You make it clear to see. Well, if you speak until something is clear, well, that's exactly what explaining something is. So first of all, the word itself gives you a clue, but then there's other things you can do. Okay, imagine that there's a teacher speaking in front of the class, and all of the kids in the class are slowly having bright light bulbs popping up above their head because they're understanding what's been explained. How about you imagine that Sean Connery is swimming next to you, giving you a swimming lesson. 说明 swimming, right? That one always stuck with me. How about show, meaning like 说 kind of sounds like show, and 明, you can think of a Ming vase, right? So show and a Ming vase, these things might seem kind of silly, but they're actually quite effective because remember, what's the alternative? Rote learning through repetition over and over, that stuff doesn't stick. This stuff is silly. Sean Connery teaching me how to swim in the pool. It's much more memorable than some random 2D squiggles on a page. Okay, so, and the key here, though, is to try to not be too precious about it. Like, don't be too like, oh, I could never think of something like that. Just think of whatever comes to mind, right? And once you've learned a few common characters and words, you need to get that comprehensible input. And so this is the second part of the Build, Get, Activate framework. And so here are the two ways that we help people get comprehensible input: extensive listening and extensive reading. Now, what do we mean by these? So when it comes to extensive reading and listening, it's consuming understandable sentences and paragraphs and stories to naturally acquire grammar and increase comprehension fast. So to actually understand and eventually use Chinese words correctly, you need to see and hear those words in useful, understandable sentences. And you do not need to study grammar rules. I can't emphasize that enough. You will acquire the grammar naturally if you do this. Now, when you consume sentences a lot, your brain automatically learns grammar without memorizing rules. And so here's an example. 他在吃饭，他在跳舞，我在喝茶. You quickly absorb that 在 plus verb means doing something right now. Right? It's not something that you need to necessarily learn intellectually. You just hear it enough and you see it enough where you understood the message. Your brain will pick up the pattern without you even needing to do it. It's one of those things like if somebody said to you, try to listen, it's like you're adding this extra effort on top. Whereas if you don't try, your brain will still naturally understand what I'm saying, assuming you can understand English. Right? You don't have to try to understand. You just have to let your brain do its thing. Okay? Now, if you do this listening and reading daily, and your comprehension will skyrocket because you stop studying Chinese and instead start absorbing it. Okay? Now, this is what the Blueprint has been world class at. Build and get. Build the foundation through character learning and living links for words, and then get comprehensible input through lots of extensive reading and listening. Okay. But, and we've had thousands of learners reading, listening, and understanding Chinese to a high level very quickly. John here saying the Mandarin Blueprint takes a language with a reputation for being soul crushingly difficult and makes it simple and logical to learn. Ed saying learning Chinese characters becomes surprisingly easy and even fun. Harvey saying this is far superior to Duolingo, Memorize, or any of the other competitors. And, Howard saying, I'm impressed that I can read in such a short time. Mandarin Blueprint rocks. Now, the thing is, though, we noticed a problem. Members who use the course understand Chinese very well, but they often struggle to speak, right? So you've understood, but there's a third pillar here. Build, get, and what? It's activate. And it makes total sense because understanding the language is one thing, using it fluently is another. So for years, we didn't really do anything about this because we lacked the time and energy and resources to do so. We were just not a big enough company. We didn't have enough people on the staff to be able to hold people accountable to that part of it. So we would just say to people, go find native speakers and practice speaking. And it just wasn't very effective. And so that's how we did it. So we thought, all right, that's what we'll give as advice to others. But the thing is, it's messy, slow, and inefficient if you try to do it on your own, and as it was for us. And so if we were going to guarantee fluency for our elite members in this experiment we did here in 2025, we couldn't rely on random tutors and hope people got there, right? So we asked ourselves, if we had to make activation predictable, what would that actually look like? Okay. Well, after a ton of research, we came to the conclusion that we only needed to ensure learners do two main activities, which are shadowing and retrieval practice. And these two things make such a difference. So let me explain what I mean. Now, shadowing is when you listen to a native sentence and repeat it immediately, imitating the voice as closely as possible. Okay, and doing this makes such a difference. If you do it daily, it conditions your ears and mouth, making it possible to pronounce Mandarin accurately and at speed. You only need to speak at about 80% of a natural native speed for it to not be too slow, but nonetheless, it's better to train hard and then you can back off a little bit if you need. Now, Luke did about 200 hours of Mandarin shadowing. So that's not me, by the way. I know it says I've personally done at least 200 hours of Mandarin shadowing. And people confuse Luke and I all the time because we're both bald, but I'm the bearded one. But anyway, so he did loads of Mandarin shadowing. So have I. We've both done a ton. And that's why Luke has amazing pronunciation. And it's all because he did this shadowing practice. Now, here's a quick demo, super simple. I'm just going to play some of this for you and you can get a sense of how it is.
那边是入口吗？直走。
直走。
远不远？
远不远？
请问洗手
请问
间在哪里？
洗手间在哪里？
可以走路去吗？
可以走路去吗？ So you see, like, it's not always, and you can always pause, like, for that last one, 可以走路去吗? So I'm listening, and I don't even have the written bit in front of me, so I'm just listening and reacting. Of course, there's various levels of shadowing. You can do listen and repeat, then shadow, then you can read and listen and walk and shadow, or you can just do the hardest one, which is just listening and immediately shadowing whatever you're listening to. And so you can always pause and start again, but it is a hugely helpful step to take. Now, that's shadowing, but retrieval practice is also really important. So think of shadowing as being equivalent to like strength and conditioning. It's like training for a fighter, right? You have to build up those mouth muscles. It's essential for high performance. It's essential for not letting your mouth be the constraint. Your brain is not going to be the constraint if you use the blueprint, but your mouth could be if you never practice. And so just like a fighter needs sparring to develop the skill, you must do speaking practice to develop spoken fluency. So the original plan for Elite was simple. Do a ton of reading, listening, and shadowing practice with useful sentences. Do as many speaking sessions as possible, right? Those two things. But we quickly saw the problems. Tutor quality varies widely, right? So we knew this was going to be an issue. And even great tutors, they tend to get worse over time. They just get, a little bit lazy, they get a little bit tired, they kind of phone it in. And so sessions kind of become random chit chat. And it's not that that's completely useless. It's definitely better than not talking at all, but it's not as efficient as it could be, right? And most importantly, learners rarely practice alone between the sessions. And this is kind of silly because think of it like learning piano, right? You don't get good by performing as much as possible in front of an audience. You get good by practicing in private, and then the performance is more like the proof that your practice is working. So we started researching, how can you train speaking on your own in a way that actually works? And this is where we discovered the real missing piece, retrieval practice, okay? Forcing your brain to produce Chinese. And this is one of the things that strengthens all that stuff you do with the shadowing and all of the understanding you get in spades with the blueprint. And so there are several ways to do this on your own. One is through flashcards. Another is through AI practice. Another is through self-talk. And these are all things you can do alone. So the flashcards, English on the front, Chinese on the back. Can I walk there? If you don't see the Chinese in the back, 可以走路去吗? 可以走路去吗? If I just see, can I walk there? And I can think, yeah, how would I say that in Chinese? 可以走路去吗? Right? And that gives me a chance to retrieve it, right? And then the AI practice, this is obviously giving you the opportunity to have a back and forth with, something that sounds like a person, but there's no judgment, right? And so AI presents English sentences, asks you questions, and then you say or type the Chinese. You can even have the conversation based on it being built around your content. And then, of course, there's self-talk. You speak out loud to yourself in bursts of 1 to 2 minutes, multiple times a day. And in order to do that, you want to narrate your surroundings, you want to journal, you want to simply regurgitate the sentences you've been practicing with. But there's techniques to do this at a more and more advanced way as you get going. And members, if they do these activities daily as a part of their regimen, well, that's how they get the resulting Chinese that you saw earlier in the presentation. And so what we do, though, is we then do weekly speaking sessions with native speakers to practice what they've been working on live. And I would almost call it as perform what they have been practicing. It's like the piano recital to the piano practice, okay? And so this way, the speaking sessions aren't the practice as much as the performance, okay? The proof that the regimen is working. So to make this easy, fun, and trackable, we spent $24,000 so far building a tool for our members, and we call it the Mandarin Blueprint Elite web app, all right? Now, instead of juggling word mnemonics, sentence lists, audio files, flashcards. Everything lives in one place. And so let's take a look at a video Luke made explaining how the web app works.
So this is the Mandarin Blueprint web app. The first thing you'll do when you log into the program is select your course. We have the phrase vault, which is full of 7,000 really useful Chinese phrases. We also have the Mandarin speaking listening Kickstarter. That's similar, but just more basic with 1,000 basic phrases. You also have a little bonus, 50 phrases for use in native conversations. And the language islands are for elite members only. And over the next few months, we'll be adding more and more Blueprint sentences so you can use this platform to practice those sentences as well. So let's dive into the phrase vault. We've selected it. So let's go to build. You'll only need to use this section if you want to learn these words and phrases top down. You can also just work through the blueprint and you'll gradually unlock these units and levels from the phrase vault as you master every single character in every level. So you'll be presented with each sentence one by one, and every single word, whether it's a single character or multi-character word, you'll be presented with mnemonic suggestions for you to build mnemonics and learn the words really fast. And as you learn them, or if you've already learned them previously, you can just tick them off. So for example, for 知道, which means to know in Chinese, you might not know this word, so you could just look at the suggestions, the opinion-based or character-based mnemonic suggestions. Just to give you some ideas, you can make a quick mnemonic and learn that word if you wanted to. Even if you don't know the characters right now, you can still learn the words using mnemonics. That's just how powerful mnemonics are. So once you've learned all the words for this particular phrase, and of course the app will remember which word you've already ticked, which words you've already learned. And you can leave your mnemonic suggestions there as well, so you can review them later if you need to, and hit next. And you just do that to build your knowledge of all of these individual phrases and the vocabulary within them. And when you're ready, you can go to the Get section at the top here, and this is where the magic happens. So all the sentences that you have activated in Build will appear here. You can turn off the Chinese and the pinyin if you wanted to test yourself using active recall or retrieval practice in this view. But primarily this view, the Get view, is for listening, reading, and shadowing practice. Look at the individual sentences here. You can play the audio for them individually.
那边是入口吗?
You can even loop them over and over and over again if you wanted to shadow a particular sentence.
那边是入口吗?
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 When you think you're ready, you can then play all sentences in a row as an audio file. And again, you can loop the audio file. You can loop each sentence multiple times each as you go through. You can change the speed. So you can start off slower and then speed up gradually. You can even change the gap in between the sentences. So let's first try a half-second gap with 80% speed, playing each sentence one time.
那边是入口吗?
那边是入口吗?
直走.
直走.
远不远?
远不远?
请问洗手间在哪里?
在哪里?
可以走路去吗?
走路去吗?
And so on and so forth. And then when you think you're ready, you can hit this little check button here. As you can see, I've already checked these ones, but you can say, oh, okay, this one, 这个地方安全吗? Okay, I'm pretty confident with that. I'll click it. Or you can just hit activate all if you're feeling super confident. And then once you've activated it by hitting this little check or hitting activate all, you can go to the activate section. And that's when we do proper retrieval practice using SRS, space repetition software flashcards. So it works very similar to any other space repetition software like Anki. You just read the English, 前面3个路口就到了. So you try and produce the Chinese based on what you read in front of you.
往前走3个路口就到了.
往前走3个路口就到了. So maybe I got that a little bit wrong, so I might repeat it again, hit hard or hit wrong, and then go on to the next flashcard. What's this place? 这是什么地方?
这是什么地方?
I got it right, so I hit good, and so on and so forth. And that will activate the language. And you just keep following this process for every single sentence that you want to be able to master, either in the blueprint, in the Kickstarter, or in the phrase vault. And very soon, you will notice your ability to not only understand the language, but also produce it fluently will increase dramatically over the next days, weeks, and months.
And so once you can master vocabulary using the Henza movie method and living links, absorb them through real input, listening and reading, and activate them with the right output, shadowing, retrieval, plus speaking sessions, then you'll learn everything in a logical order with Aklo. Well, you've nailed the structure and methodology at this point. And by the way, for those of you who've been following us for a while, everything Luke was just showing you there in the Mandarin Blueprint Elite web app is all brand new. That's only available to the MB Elite clients right now. But spoiler alert, you guys who are here are going to have a chance to get access to it. So, all right. So the thing is, we all know though, we need one more thing, right? We need to make sure you actually show up long enough for all of this to work. And really the biggest and most important pillar is consistency. Heck, you could be really consistent with a bad methodology and structure and you'd get there. It would just take 10 years, maybe 15 years. But if you're consistent with a good structure and methodology, this is still an amazingly, you can get there in amazing speeds compared to what was possible before. That said, it's like turning an ultra marathon into just a marathon. It's still a marathon. So how are we going to stick to a daily study habit long enough to achieve the level of fluency you want? Well, to ensure consistency with MB Elite members, we began with a personalized plan, okay? So this, in the onboarding call, we would establish with them what? The level they're aiming for and what it takes. When? A realistic B2 or C1 fluency timeline. Why? A clear, strong reason to get fluent that's going to keep you moving forward when times get tough. And how? Key training on how to build the right habits. So this is something where we would go, okay, from day one, you're going to have a personal language trainer, which I'll now refer to as a PLT, a personal language trainer. And we chose that specifically because it's kind of like a trainer at the gym. These are non-native fluent speakers who've already walked the path. They understand what it's like to learn Chinese as an adult. And so you could have calls or message with them anytime. And so this was a huge part of helping people get started with Elite. Now, we gave them the starting plan, the training, and the support, but everything we thought they needed. And for the first couple of months, everyone was on fire, excited, motivated, doing the work every day. Then something surprising happened. People began to drift. Even our most hardworking members started missing a day, then two, or forgetting to shadow, or avoiding the speaking practice, or reviewing flashcards inefficiently. And the more we looked at it, the more we realized this isn't a language problem. It's a human problem. People always drift eventually. This is why couples have weekly date nights or why businesses have weekly meetings. It's a chance to get realigned because without reminders, you lose sight of what matters. So our solution was to make consistency bulletproof. So every month, one-to-one monthly call, 30-day plan created, next call scheduled, and every week, weekly reports submitted, PLT reviews and adjusts the regimen, personalized weekly newsletter from Luke. He always comes out with that every day. Clear daily regimen, help available anytime, no decision fatigue. And by the way, he left this out here, but there's also a weekly group call so that you can come to Luke or I and talk to us directly if there's anything that's unclear, and also share your wins with the rest of the community. So the result of all these improvements is that the total hours reported went way up. And so now we've got over 12,000 hours of study logged inside Elite, and people are progressing and sticking to their studies even better than ever. So hours of study went up, people stuck to their regimens longer, far fewer members drifted, confidence increased, way more breakthroughs, and our entire Elite system finally clicked. And so the consistency pillar was in place. So now the question is, how do you start using the system, considering that you don't necessarily need to use the Elite program to get there? So you've seen the structure, you've seen the methodology, you've seen how we ensure consistency. So now let me show you how to put it all together. So we talked about why 95% of Chinese learners don't make it to fluency in the system that guarantees Mandarin fluency and fast. Now I'm going to show you how to apply what you learn and start crushing Chinese today. So that is Mandarin Blueprint Pro with a couple of specials that are just here for Black Friday. Now, this is what we call university level Chinese at a fraction of the price because you're going to get a lot in Mandarin Blueprint Pro. Now, what is Mandarin Blueprint Pro? It's a combination of the course materials and ongoing community support and services. So this is essentially an element of this that is social, and it's people who know Chinese learning and are helpful. And then, of course, the actual education itself. So let's talk about the course materials first. First, you're going to have the Blueprint as your main course. And here's what you'll be able to do. You're going to be able to master upwards of 50 to 100 characters per day using the proven techniques of memory athletes. Now, to be clear, I'm not saying you should approach it that way. I'm saying you'd be able to. You'd be able to learn 100 characters a day using this method if you so chose. I did it myself, and I didn't have the Blueprint teaching me. You could use simple mnemonics to learn 50 to 100 words per day, read Chinese without pinyin or English translation from zero in 10 to 20 hours, read and understand 99% plus of Chinese by the end of the curriculum, consume novels, podcasts, TV shows, and movies in Chinese in 6 months if you put in the right amount of hours, could even be less. Pass the new HSK 7 through 9. I hate the HSKs, but people just really want to have that. So, it's in there. You can get the results superior to any 4-year Chinese degree with a tiny fraction of the time and financial investment. And I have the authority to say that because I got a degree in Chinese. I wrote my entire graduation thesis in Chinese. I wrote it in Chinese about how their structure and methodology had so many flaws. And so they agreed with me. So now, if you want to achieve authentic proficiency and up to 5 times faster than the average learner, this is the way to do it. And it is way more fun. I'm not saying it's literally, roller coasters and rainbows and cotton candy the whole way, but there is actually a lot of fun in this process, and it's certainly very rewarding. So here's what you'll be able to get rid of. University, no need. This will do better than that. And it's way less expensive. Private classes, you could use them if you wanted to, but you wouldn't need to use them for a long time. And they really are kind of unnecessary because of everything that we cover. Immersion programs, no need to do that. You go to China if you want as a reward, but you don't have to be in China to get fluent in the language. You just need to have the right structure, methodology, and be consistent with it. Books that are specific to Chinese learning, any textbooks like that, apps or websites. A lot of people use an app and they tell us about it and they're like, I used this app before coming to you guys. And I was like, I understand, it's like the gateway drug, but you don't need them anymore. And the average cost of fluency for many people is $5,000 to $100,000, depending on what you do, not including the opportunity costs, considering that most of it doesn't work. So, and of course, the average time, if you don't quit, is at least 2,200 hours, at most 4,000 plus hours. And we can do it in, about half the time there. So just so you're aware, in terms of the blueprint, you'll get to master 99.4% of Chinese quickly. You'll save $5,000 to $100,000, save 1,000 to 3,000 hours. It's a patent pending curriculum, and it's better Chinese education than any university degree can provide. So I'm just going to play you guys a quick video of some people who have done Mandarin Blueprint Pro, just so you understand that this is not just me talking as the creator of the course. It's also the experience of our members.
Making several attempts over the years. I have a little Mandarin, folder on my iPhone with literally 25 apps on it.
I was skeptical. I thought with the multitude of courses available and, the syllabuses and all the rest of it, why is this going to be any different?
And then a friend of mine said, hey, I found a really great program. And I thought, yeah, right. Okay. I've tried a bunch of apps and stuff.
I've tried different programs. None of them really stuck. Another friend of mine, another foreigner, he introduced me to Mandarin Blueprint. So I did the 14-day free trial. And even before I was done with those 14 days, I said, shut up and take my money, please.
This is 100 times better than the next thing.
At the end of the first hour, I was blown away. The care and the thought that is invested into the design and the presentation, it's like nothing else. It's a league of its own.
Speaking quite a lot of languages myself, it's the best course I ever stumbled upon.
It is so much fun to learn with your method.
Not only learning the language, it's also learning the culture. So Luke and Phil tell real life stories very often, and I really enjoy it. Sometimes very funny. I just sit there and just laugh at it.
Mandarin Blueprint has changed my view on Mandarin.
I'm really glad that I found the Mandarin Blueprint because it's such a refreshing way to learn Chinese characters.
This platform has a very methodical, very consistent, very natural way of teaching you.
Like they're laying it out in a step-by-step process that you can follow, that is very easy, and it just all makes sense and clicks nicely together.
It's clear you put a lot of effort into thinking about what order things should come in.
I love the way they put it step by step, video by video. You just never have to wonder, what do I do next?
Now, what Luke and Phil have done has put together an amazing system. It's the best learning program I've ever seen.
The way Mandarin Blueprint works is just so clear and orderly and intuitive. Like, how often do those things go together?
It's really fun. Yeah, I couldn't recommend Mandarin Blueprint highly.
Mandarin Blueprint is the only way to learn.
You can learn Chinese, and you can do it with the Mandarin Blueprint method.
The only thing I regret is that I didn't find you right from the beginning.
Of course, there is nothing better than Mandarin Blueprint.
Your program is just a chef's kiss. Outstanding.
I actually still recognize the characters. I can still write them like 2 months later, having only put like maybe 1 hour in. And I was like, oh man, I should have just stuck with this from the beginning.
Get the program and you will learn Chinese. And it's fun too. It's really fun. All right, guys, thanks a lot. And I hope to shake your hand in person someday soon. 谢谢.
All right. So considering all of the things that Mandarin Blueprint Pro and the Blueprint specifically, the Blueprint course materials as a part of Mandarin Blueprint Pro can do, I think it's reasonable to put it at a $10,000 value, considering that most universities are going to cost you way more than that. I spent way more than that on my fluency. So valuing it around there, I think is quite conservative. And I'm not saying that that's the price. I'm saying that that's the value, right? Now, then I just showed you the video of what members were saying. So here's what you'd be getting today. You get the blueprint, which is a total value of $10,000, but we didn't talk about the community and ongoing service. So let's talk about that. So here's what you get with the hub. And the hub is the community element, live event element, and the essentially the community accountability. So here's what happens. So the pro community access. First, in the Mandarin Blueprint Pro community, the hub, you can share awesome achievements and get inspired. People are doing this all the time. I love the hub. It's really fun to go inside there. So you hit, here's F Zen saying, hit 1,000 characters, a roller coaster journey so far. 我有好消息，我学习了1500汉字. From Allison, Etienne said, the best Mandarin of any foreigner we've met, somebody met in Xiamen. Jada hitting 1,000 characters. Benjamin proposing in Chinese. Elizabeta sharing her Chinese fanatic identity with her nails that she painted in Chinese characters. Vash going the distance when she was having a rough week. She's still stuck with her study. Tav, I thought you were half Chinese. At this very moment, we've showed you on the before, Dennis sharing his 1,500 characters in 33 days. So the community accountability is super helpful. Now, there's also advanced members in there. Great question here from Tian Le, where he said, if I could start MB over again, I would, and get a bunch of responses from our more advanced members. This is Yan sharing his learning 30 characters in one session and exactly how he does it to be even more efficient. Jacob with asking for TV show and movie recommendations, got a ton of responses. Lakota sharing his reflections from 1,500 characters in. You can even join and hold challenges. Lu Yi has a tongue twister challenge. Allison did a Chinese reading challenge, a self-talk challenge that Lu Yi did. Jeanette shared an insanely cool new pronunciation challenge. And, what this comes down to, why this is effective, is because one of the most effective ways that you can build better habits is to join a culture where your desired behavior is the normal behavior. And that's what James Clear said in Atomic Habits. And it's so true, because new habits seem achievable when you see others doing them every day. And so that's part of what you get with the hub. You find study buddies, lifelong friends. I mean, how can you put a value on that? But, it's happened so far. We've had people who make friends in New Zealand and in China and in all across the world. You can share wins, get support when you need it, bonus unlockable resources and merch. It's kind of priceless stuff, so we can't really put too much of a value on it. Now, we do have regular live events as well, and this is a chance to connect with Luke and I. Regular coffee hours, presentations, Q&As, and there's a bunch of events held by community leaders as well. And so this is a sort of an ongoing value, so that's $600 a year of value. Now, you also get expert Chinese support in the hub. So you can ask us anything about grammar, pronunciation, listening, speaking, etc., anything like that, and get a response within 24 hours, usually just a few hours, unless there's some particularly extenuating circumstance. Now, you'll always feel supported and know someone's there to help. And hey, a lot of times the community will know the answer really quickly, and then our team just comes in to basically confirm that they're correct. Or if they were incorrect, be like, actually, what they said is not right. You should do this. So you can always feel certain of your support there. Easily $200 a year of value there. So you get this incredible community, the live coaching, the 24/7 expert support, the community live events, the bonus resources and merch, and lifetime access. So we're talking at least a $3,000 value there. It's really hard to say for sure because some of it is so intangible, but we're trying to be conservative here. So you get the blueprint, you get the hub, but here's the thing: it's Black Friday, so we're going to give you some huge bonus learning resources for more efficient and fun progress. And so first bonus is the phrase vault. And I love this course. This course rules. You get, so much out of this. So Mandarin Blueprint Pro builds lifelong Chinese proficiency bottom up. The phrase vault is about getting you speaking fast with top down learning. So you get so many audio files, 75 hours plus of audio, 350 plus meticulously planned lessons covering 5,500 plus phrases, easily $1,000 value there. There's flashcards for everything. So, you're basically going to be able to cover things like travel and directions, religion and spirituality, human body and clothing, relationships and society, culture and traditions, law and order, right? These are things that you may want to learn at some point, and you can targetedly learn them, but it also connects with the blueprint, right? So in here, you'll see 3 types of audio lesson. You have 2 types of audio flashcard to help. You master every sentence and start speaking like a native fast. And what I was saying before about it being related to the blueprint is that at the top of each level, it says all of the characters in this lesson were learned upon completion of the blueprint level 35 or 58 or whatever. And that means that you can know, okay, well, at least I know all the characters from this level, so it's actually not so top down at that point. Now, you'll be able to get rid of a bunch of stuff. Anything that's listen or repeat, Pimsleur, Rosetta Stone, any phrase book like that. You won't need to have tutors in the same way because you'll be able to practice in that sort of piano recital way. And that's at least $1,000 saved there. This is Christine talking about how she uses it every day. And Christine's a great example of somebody who did really well with the blueprint, but didn't do enough speaking practice. So the phrase vault made a huge difference for her. This is Richard, saying to add it to your arsenal. Luckily, it's an even more of a no-brainer today because it's just included in today's offer as a bonus. And this is Christine. She felt like it was indispensable. And I particularly liked Christine's story because she's a heritage speaker and it was making it easier for her to connect with her family. And then Brian talking about how it's made such a difference for him. And many of our members were super pleased about it because they felt like it was a major missing piece. And now they have it and they love it. And by the way, when we first came out with it, it was about $400. And today on Black Friday, it gets to be included as a free bonus. So 7,000 plus natural Chinese phrases, 130 real world situations covered, 75 hours of studio quality audio, 15,000 plus audio flashcards, easily a $2,000 value. So we add that on as a bonus for up to a $15,000 total value. Now you also get the speaking and listening bundle. Now, what is this made up of? Well, you get pronunciation mastery. This course is amazing. It makes learning Mandarin pronunciation easy, fast, and fun. And you save $500 on tutors and classes with this. I'm serious. Luke does such a good job of explaining it. Many of you may have seen our most popular YouTube video, which is a Mandarin pronunciation explanation by Luke. This dives way deeper and has all the materials you need to practice. So it's one of our best courses, 6 hours of core video content plus 2 hours of bonus content. There are 1,000 plus audio flashcards, bonus PDFs and quizzes, easily a $700 value here for pronunciation mastery. But you want to be able to practice it, apply it. So we added the pronunciation practice toolkit to the end of pronunciation mastery. It's all the tools, techniques, and guidance to develop remarkable pronunciation, a daily pronunciation practice schedule, a tone guide, a tutoring guide, a bonus audio and video, and that's another $200 value there. But even more important is you need to develop stronger mouth muscles and neural dexterity, like go into the mouth gym with the Mandarin Speaking and Listening Kickstarter. Now, what's actually interesting about this course is I made it by accident. When we were building out the phrase vault, I was like, well, there should really be a beginner section of the phrase vault just because, maybe somebody hasn't done the blueprint and they don't know as many words. So there should be like a beginner section. And I quickly realized I was like, this is a course. This whole beginner section is a course. So think of this like your survival Chinese guide and the way to practice what you learn in pronunciation mastery. So if pronunciation mastery is like learning to shoot a basketball, Mandarin Speaking and Listening Kickstarter is taking your 10,000 shots of the basketball, because just because you learn the right technique doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to be able to swish every three-pointer. So you'll master 1,000 survival phrases, 7 hours of audio lessons, clear and efficient 7-step routine, a 15 email onboarding course, and 1,100 plus audio flashcards for review, another $300 right there. So the speaking and listening bundle gets you another $1,200 worth of value, free today as a bonus. Now, bonus number 3 is the Mandarin Blueprint Accelerator. So this was Luke just absolutely focused on helping people as much as he could with the creation of the Chinese habit. So it's everything you need to develop a Chinese learning habit and mindset so that it's rock solid. It's got assignments, slides, community follow-up, easily $1,000 value there. If it works, it's the most valuable thing, because if you can keep the habit going, that's the consistency pillar done and dusted. Now, even better though, we also added the Progress Accelerator Kit. This is a smart habit tracker that's fully customizable to your study, and it gives you a schedule generator, and it has a companion video course alongside it. It's another $1,000 value. Think of this as like, in combination with the Mandarin Blueprint Accelerator, you'll be unstoppable, because you have everything super clear, laid out for you and generated for you. So you never at any point are wondering, what do I do? Another free bonus today. So we're at a value now of $18,200, but there's one more thing. Well, actually 2. And so for Black Friday only, you're getting 2 bonuses, easily worth $1,500 plus. And these were, only available to our Mandarin Blueprint Elite coaching clients previously. And, they pay $10,000 to $20,000 for guaranteed fluency. We have never done this before, and we may never do this again. So, and one of them is even limited to, probably not going to last to the end of this call. So the first one that everybody will get if they get Mandarin Blueprint Pro is the first time we have given anybody outside of Mandarin Blueprint Elite the Mandarin Blueprint web app. And so this, you'll be able to use the phrase vault with this, Mandarin Speaking and Listening Kickstarter with this. You'll be able to practice the stuff we do in pronunciation mastery with this. It's a huge leg up. It's that video I showed earlier where Luke was showing you that. We've added a bunch of new features to this web app from the 175 plus elite members we've had over the past, 9 months. It's been now 8 months. And so hugely helpful. Anybody who gets it today will be able to get access to the Mandarin Blueprint Elite web app. So you'll rapidly improve your vocabulary, your listening, reading, and speaking skills. You'll master thousands of words, phrases, and sentences from our courses, the Kickstarter, the Phrase Vault, the Blueprint, and more. You'll access the new Blueprint content, and you'll get exclusive lifetime access, easily $1,000+ value. So there you get the Mandarin Blueprint Elite web app, and that brings the total value to $19,200. Now, we have one more bonus. However, the 10 sessions with trained Mandarin Blueprint tutors, I won't bury the lead here. We have 26 more slots of these yet left, because there are only so many slots we can fill, and we calculated this all out ahead of time. So we actually, to the first 100 people who bought our Black Friday offer, we offered a free month of coaching, but that sold out on Tuesday when Luke gave this presentation. So that's gone. We do have another 26 slots remaining of the 10 sessions with trained Mandarin Blueprint tutors. So what does this include? Custom one-to-one sessions, 1 per week for 45 minutes. You'll practice real conversation and build confidence fast. You get immediate feedback and correction so you don't build bad habits. The tutors are vetted and trained by the Mandarin Blueprint team, and you'll unlock them after level 36 or 1,000 words. And we're very specific about this. Before you get to level 36, it's not worth using the tutors yet. So you don't unlock them until you get past level 36, but see that as an extra motivation to get there, okay? Now, this is valid for 1 year, so there's no rush to use the 10 sessions. The main thing you should focus on is trying to get to level 36, which is definitely possible to do in well before the year would be up. And so that's a $500 value, again, free today, but only for the next 26 people. All right, so that brings your total value to $19,700. This is the biggest offer we've ever made, and it's very possible that we won't do this again. So if all this did was finally give you a path to fluency that is proven to work, give you more in 1 to 2 hours a day from the comfort of your own home than 8 hours a day at any university, give you the ability to amaze your friends, family, and strangers alike with fluent Chinese for the rest of your life, and they will be impressed. Would it be worth $19K? It's kind of an interesting question, right? But you're not paying $19,700 today or $10,000. Heck, you're not paying $5,000. You're not even paying $14.99, which is the full price for just Mandarin Blueprint Pro without those bonuses. today you can join Mandarin Blueprint Pro with the Black Friday bonuses for as little as just $749. Okay, so just go to mandarinblueprint.com/BF and you can get started. Now, if you can't do $749 right now, you can also do 3 payments of $269. So 2 things to keep in mind. 1, your discount and bonuses will expire soon. Like I mentioned before, the 10 speaking sessions with the native bonus, there are 26 left. So they will expire once we get to 26. And then the general offer is going to expire, it's Black Friday time. So about the end of the weekend, right? And so there's 0 risk, especially because we have a 365-day guarantee. Okay. So you get full access to every single lesson of every course, plus your bonuses for a full year. And if you decide you aren't happy with your results, we'll give you a full refund, right? So how can we do this? Well, I think it's a reasonable question to ask, because after 10 years of data from Pro and the breakthroughs we've seen in Elite, we know this system works when you actually use it. So we're very confident about it. We're not concerned about people taking the advantage of this on day 364, because generally people recognize that if something actually worked for them, that they think it was worth the money. And if it really wasn't working for you, then we don't deserve your money, because we're a Mandarin course. And if you didn't get better at Mandarin as a result of our course, then what are we even doing, right? That's how we think of it. And so the good news, you're getting almost $20,000 worth of fluency training, bonuses, and tools for a tiny fraction of the price and a full year to test it all out. The bad news is the offer won't and can't last long. It's just, especially with the native tutors, there's just not much we can do about that. There's a limited capacity. And of course, it's Black Friday weekend. So, the discounts don't last forever. So as of now, there are 25 left. So somebody at least bought so far. And so there are real limits that we're not going to continue after that. Once they're gone, they're gone. No exceptions. Okay. So here's what happens when you join today. You're going to get instant access to Mandarin Blueprint Pro, all the courses. You're going to get early access to the Mandarin Blueprint Elite web app. You're going to get community access plus the live calls. You're going to get lifetime access and a 365-day guarantee and 12 months to use your speaking sessions. And that's for those of you who get in on time. So you have 2 paths you can take from here. The first is to keep bouncing between apps, tutors, and YouTube, hoping something clicks. And the second is to commit to one proven system, follow it long enough, and make fluency predictable. So if you want path B, go to mandarinblueprint.com/Black Friday, join Mandarin Blueprint Pro, and get your Black Friday bonuses while they're still available. So you can get started now for $749 or 3 payments of $269. And just before I finish here, I just want to make sure that we see some questions for people who may be watching the recording and just cover them here. And then after that, I will take a look in the chat and see if there are any questions there that I can answer. So the first one is, will this actually work for me? Which is a very common question. The real question is, will you work, right? So you don't need talent or intelligence. Every human can learn languages, okay? The only thing you need is to show up consistently. It's not rocket science, just like a marathon isn't rocket science. And yet people get faster and faster. Eliud Kipchoge did it under 2 hours. He did a marathon in under 2 hours. Well, how is that possible? Because the structure and methodology of his training that he was consistent with kept getting better and better. So there's no reason it can't work for you, just like there's no reason anybody couldn't get better at running, right? It's just a matter of doing the work. And so we'll help you with that. Weekly Q&As, the hub, community, support reminders. You're not doing this alone. And if you actually want to learn Chinese and you put in the time, especially once the system finally works, you'll really, feel it. And so most people quit other programs because the programs don't work. So in this case, don't fall for the trap of like, I had bad relationships before, so now, all women are terrible or all men suck or something like that. You just haven't found the right program. You just haven't found the right situation that works for you yet. And so that's one thing that you can consider with this. Now, another thing that comes up is, what if I don't have enough time? And so, well, here's the thing. There really is no better time, because You don't need hours a day. You need consistency, not intensity. Consistency, not intensity, okay? Start with a minimum you'd be embarrassed not to hit. 20 to 30 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day. You know, at some point, Chinese has to become a priority, right? And because it's not that you don't have time. We say, I'm going to make time for that. What that means is that I'm going to put it as a higher priority than other things. And how do I know this? Because everybody on earth, their top priority is almost certainly air. If you didn't have air, everything else can, you know, can wait until you figure out how to meet your need for air, right? So like, it would be so silly for you to be like, well, I don't have air right now, but I don't have time to try to fix that problem. I'm too busy with other stuff. That'd be crazy, right? And so what you want to think about with Chinese is after your basic needs are met and after your family obligations are met and getting your work done, what's in the top priority zone? And if it can be Chinese, then you'll put it above the other things. And you can set what that is, by the way. You can say it's 30 minutes, but until that 30 minutes is satisfied, you don't do your other stuff. And then maybe if you get some progress, you increase that limit. But the point is, you have to make time at some point. Otherwise, this won't work, right? Chinese doesn't really abide dabbling. Okay, now I've tried everything. Why would this be different? Well, this is kind of like we learned Mandarin as non-natives, right? And we had to figure out what works. And what we've proven it now with thousands of members and the 1,000 5-star reviews. Most programs teach one tiny slice of the language: vocabulary, grammar, characters, maybe speaking. We teach everything, and in the correct order: pronunciation, characters, words, sentences, listening, speaking, writing. Nothing else out there is this structured or comprehensive. And unlike apps or random YouTube channels, this is a complete system, not fragments in a random order. Your past failures weren't your fault. You were using systems that don't work. Now, what happens when you get stuck, right? So this is about the support system. You get access to 24/7 email support, the hub community. You can post at any time and people will respond to you. We have weekly live Q&As with Luke and myself. And look, getting stuck is normal. It's staying stuck that is the problem, right? So you never have to solve problems alone in this community. If you ever are stuck, there's a place you can go to post about what you need to what your issue is. And there's also private avenues to talk to our member service team. So there's really no reason to be stuck for good. Now, is this too hard? Is it too advanced? Is it too big for me? This is sometimes what people will think. And, you know, the course starts from absolute zero. Okay. So level 1 assumes no Mandarin knowledge. Now, one of the folks in the chat was talking about knowing a lot of characters, and that's fine too. There's other things you can approach the course with if you know stuff already. But even if you were starting from absolute zero, you basically just have to follow the program, right? And so everything is broken into small steps, so you never feel overwhelmed, and you only ever see the next tiny chunk, not the whole mountain, right? So if you follow the sequence, you'll be fine. Now, somebody else might be thinking, is this too basic for me? I guess that's what the fellow in the chat was saying before. And listen, if you truly know a character, meaning you instantly recognize it, you know the meaning, you know the correct tone, can pronounce it confidently, then you can skip it, okay? But most learners think they know hundreds of characters and then discover weak tones, they discover confusion with lookalike characters, or they have a shallow recognition of the characters. The blueprint rebuilds your foundation at a level that actually sticks. So if you already know things deeply, the early levels fly by, and so it's not really an issue. Now, how fast will I see results? Now, like many skills, there are tons of breakthroughs in the beginning, in the sense that, you know, it's a 1,000-hour project to reach solid fluency, but that's kind of, you know, that's normal for any language. The beginning feels slow because you're learning the techniques of the language, but it's kind of an exponential curve, right? So a lot of times what people will experience when they're learning is what's called the valley of disappointment. In fact, let me show you exactly what I mean. So just briefly switch to screen here. So when you're learning, you tend to think that you're progress, so progress over time, we naturally think like, this is my progress, that's what it will be. But that's not true of language acquisition, right? What really happens is that you're building skills, and you're kind of going like this, and then you kind of start to take off, and then now your progress goes like that. Now, there's progressions of plateaus and breakthroughs as time goes on, but this whole area where your perception of how good you should be is greater than your actual skill is called the valley of disappointment. And why is it called that? Because it's where your expectations are higher than your actual skill level. And so when this happens, it's really important to have community and people who can remind you that, hey, you still have to hit the curve. And on your way to the curve, that's totally normal to feel like this, but you're building a foundation. And or another way to think of it is roots are growing into the ground. Nothing has sprouted up out of the ground yet, but it's not that what you're doing is not working, right? And so I hope that's clear that like it's really worth sticking with it, even at the beginning. So you will see tangible results fairly early. It's just that getting to the point of fluency is definitely, a lot of it comes towards the end, but it's still worth it. We try to objectify as many things as we can. So it's like, how many things could you objectify in this? Well, how many characters have you learned? How many words have you learned? How many sentences have you seen, right? How many conversations have you had? How many hours of speaking practice have you done? The more things that you can objectify, the better a process this will be. Now, do I need a good memory? Right? Do I need a good memory? Well, this is always a good question, right? So these memory techniques are, what's so cool about them is that so many people who have said, I have a bad memory, have done these techniques and been like, now it's solved, right? Because even people with terrible school style memory, they do well here because it uses emotional imagery, not rote memorization. I'm bad at rote memorization too. If you can remember scenes from your movies or stories from books, like if you remember a scene from a movie or a story from Harry Potter or like a scene from The Lord of the Rings, you're remembering an image, and that image is memorable. So you can manufacture such an image and apply it to a character, and that's so much better than rote memorization. Why do you have any memory? Like, why do you remember anything that's happened in your life? It's because there were emotional hooks of people, objects, places, and actions that meant something to you and made it a memorable sort of scene in your mind. And by remembering that thing, that's proof that you can create the conditions within your own mind that will make it so that you can have a great memory. Now, there are rare cases like aphantasia, and there are alternate techniques that we can teach. In that case, aphantasia is when you're blind in your mind's eye, but everyone can learn characters with the right method. What if I'm too old to learn Chinese? Poppycock. So listen, cognitive speed does decrease slightly with age, but not enough to stop language learning. In fact, research shows that learning a language actually protects your brain as you age, which was I was very skeptical of this at first, but apparently there are real potential effects of less Alzheimer's and less dementia cases of people who learn languages, as they get older. And so really, the older learners in our course often outperform the younger ones because of discipline and life experience, but also more that they can glean from when they're doing their mnemonic imagery. So you can absolutely do this at any age, and we have plenty of examples of this even in the elite community. So does MB Pro cover reading, listening, speaking, and writing? Yes, absolutely. It's all a part of it. The various courses are a part of it. And especially if you get one of the native speaking sessions, the 10 native speaking sessions, you'll have chances to prove that your speaking practice is working, which, by the way, we're down to 20 remaining. How does the guarantee work? It's no funny business here. Like, basically, you get 365 days to get your money back. and we'll refund it. Now, we might, after we've already refunded it, we'll probably be like, hey, so what was the thing that didn't work for you? Because we're always trying to learn. But we'll do that after we've already agreed to the refund, because it's very simple. If our course doesn't get you to fluency in the way you want it to, or it doesn't help you improve in a way that you feel like is worth the $750, we don't deserve your money. So it's that simple. Do I get access to everything right away? Absolutely. And look out for a fair few emails that come through, because you're going to get login details to the various things that you need to do. So I would definitely recommend that after you sign up, set aside like 10 minutes to get yourself fully logged into everything. But in some cases, some of you have it already. If you have Mandarin Blueprint Lite already, you won't lose your progress. You'll just get the courses added to your course library and flashcards. So yes, you will get access right away. And in the case of the native speaking sessions, as we mentioned earlier, those activate when you get to level 36 of the course. And after you get to level 36 of the course, you have the rest of the year to use all 10. Does this include traditional characters? So traditional characters is technically no. However, I still think it's the better way to approach it anyway, and here's why. So simplified characters are obviously easier to learn using mnemonic methods because they don't include as many components and therefore require fewer objects to try to remember in your mind. And once you have enough simplified characters to be able to read long passages in context, then you can read it and understand it fully and simplified, and then switch it to traditional using the Apple Notes app, or there's plenty of online web traditional simplified converters, and you just read it again. And if you do that like 50 to 100 times, where you've understood about 50 to 100 articles and then switch it to traditional, you'll figure out the corresponding differences between traditional and simplified. So you can totally learn traditional characters by that method. And on our forum, there's even a bunch of people who've offered alternative methods to learn the traditional characters. So while it's actually a solved issue. Can I use this on my phone or tablet? Yes, you can. You can do it on your iPad. You can do it on your phone. I like to do it in combination with a desktop computer, laptop computer, and a phone, because it gives you more screen space to be able to do more stuff. But yeah, basically that's no problem. What exactly happens after I join? You get several emails for logins. You get to join the community. You can make a post entering the community. You want to watch some of the onboarding. You want to just make sure that you're on top of it. You'll probably get a phone call from one of us just to make sure you onboarded properly. And you can actually, after you I say you'll get a phone call, we will on the thank you page, there is an embedded calendar for you to book an onboarding call with us. And that way you can get started. We can learn a little bit about what your goals are and what you hope to get out of the course, and make sure that you've logged into everything properly and that there's nothing missing from that everything went right. You got all the courses you were supposed to get. Okay, so then how do I get access to my free web app? So this is something that you'll see, you'll get an email explaining it afterwards, but yeah, it's really straightforward. It's just, it will give you access right away after you purchase. So that gets me to the end of the various questions I had for you guys and all of the things that I wanted to answer, knowing that they're very common questions. So that covers what we've done here. Now, mandarinblueprint.com/BF is the idea that I'd like you to head over there for the sale. And, we're getting more of those bonuses dropping out. So let me just check the YouTube chat to see if there are any other questions that have come up that are relevant here. Let's find this here. Okay, let's see if I can find where I left off. Okay. So JB says, I'm an absolute beginner, but I feel like I don't want to miss this deal. Yeah, I mean, absolute beginners, I love that, because for absolute beginners, it's like, good, you haven't done the wrong thing like I did so long. We can mold you right from the beginning to do the right stuff. Let's see here. Oh, and I'm glad to see that so many people are saying that they love the pro community and all of that. Thank you, Paul Gansler, for saying that the testimonies are right on. Oh, thank you, Veroff. Your system is amazing. Thanks and congratulations. I appreciate that. But if you already have the Blueprint Pro and want to get the app, just message Mandarin Blueprint. Just message contact@mandarinblueprint.com, and they might be able to help you with that. Luke decided what the situation was with that, and I can't remember, but check with our member service team. According to Link, about 1,500 words and another 1,200 that I'm familiar with. I feel like I've hit the intermediate plateau, and the structure of Mandarin Blueprint looks really good. Yeah, you can kind of speed run. Well, so Link says about 1,500 words. It'll be fewer characters that you know overall. But you can kind of speed run through the foundation course by just asking yourself, do I know everything about this character? If you know everything about the character, then you can move on from there. Like, that's fine. Like, you can skip the make a movie lesson where we come up with a scene to remember the character. But I kind of am somewhat insistent that you really should know everything about it. If you even have one area of doubt, I would probably, I'm talking, the pronunciation, you're certain of the tone. You're not like, is that a second or a third tone? You're like, no, you are absolutely clear on it. If that's the case, then you can skip the lesson. Laura asks, will the existing pro members have the opportunity to purchase the coaching and speaking bonuses? Sure. I mean, Mandarin Blueprint Elite is still a thing that we open from time to time. And so if you want coaching that guarantees fluency, Mandarin Blueprint Elite is a possibility for you. Now, we are very picky about who can join Mandarin Blueprint Elite. So we would have to get on the phone with you and make sure that you're a good fit. And that, of course, that we're a good fit for you. But I've essentially explained what we do in it. But like we have a limited number of coaches, so we have to be very discerning about who joins Mandarin Blueprint Elite. David says, big fan, would love to do the Black Friday deal. Too much for you right now, but it's so cool. Would it still be possible to get access to this web app and test it? Well, the deal is the deal at the moment. Normally this goes for $1,500 without the web app and without the native speaking sessions and all of that. So, even if we didn't have the web app in it, it would be a great deal. But unfortunately, no, I understand, but like, it's kind of like, how can I give it to you and not give it to anybody else? Like, it's like, so unfortunately that's the situation. But let's see here. Okay, just looking through here. Okay. All right, so I'm not seeing any further questions reading through the final elements of the YouTube chat here. So I'll give you guys like another minute or so if you want to ask any more questions. And looks like we have a fair few people signing on. So few more bonuses available, I see. I've been sort of tracking this in the back end here, so that's cool. Thank you to Krista. Oh, Krista, hey. Krista joins our live events quite frequently, so thanks to you. Benjamin says, I just feel it's too good to be true. I'm not English speaker and I'm finished my studies, so I didn't have a lot of money right now. So I hope the free version gives me time to raise money. Sure, you can start making a lot of progress with Mandarin Blueprint Lite. That's for sure. Mandarin Blueprint Lite is a fairly large chunk of the course. So, you can definitely build an initial foundation with it. You would need to continue on to Mandarin Blueprint Pro after that to get the most out of it, but it would certainly get you started. Okay. Sorry, Sebastian. No, we're not adding any more slots for the 1-month coaching bonus, I'm afraid. Yeah, we had to talk to our PLTs about that quite a bit. And yeah, that was something that Luke offered on Tuesday, and they sold out. So, basically, like, we can't just add more on because they have a limited capacity and they need to be able to provide the coaching that is of the highest value. So we're always willing to provide the best that we can do, but if it's too much and we wouldn't be able to do it operationally as a company, we won't do it, because that's just, to me, that's that to me wouldn't be integrity from our perspective. We need to be sure that we can deliver on it. So I'm afraid not. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And it's been wonderful to do this on Black Friday with you. Happy belated Thanksgiving to my American friends. And I hope that you have a great rest of your weekend. And we go into December with hope in our hearts. All right. 天天向上，再见。